Hey guys, welcome back to the Blue Line Breakdown. I'm your co-host Jace. I'm here as always with Alex and Harrison, and we're back for episode 3. And we got a bit of a different show today. We're going to cover obviously some big games from the past week in the NHL. We're going to preview some big games for the upcoming week, but we're going to do that a little quicker than normal. There's not really too many huge ones in our opinion coming up. Then, of course, we'll do the Blue Line Pick'em, review our picks from last week, make our picks for this week. Discuss a few news segments this past week. Obviously, no trades, but there was a few things going on around the league that we'd like to discuss. And then we have a new segment. We'll finish it off. We will all give, in our opinion, what we believe to be the top 10 players in the league this season. And we'll have a little debate amongst ourselves about that. That should be pretty interesting to see how that goes down. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. So the first game that we have to review from this past week happened Thursday, March 9th. It was crazy game. It was the Stars visited the Sabres, and the Stars ended up winning that one 10-4. They put up a 10-piece. I believe that was the first 10-goal game of the season this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it was just complete domination from the Stars. Buffalo led in or kept Eric Comrie in the net for all 10 goals, which yeah, that's a rough night for him. I bet after a couple, you just wish that they would have pulled him, but yeah, that's got to be rough for him. But on the Star side, they just clicking that night. 3-point nights from Jamie Benn, Jason Robertson, and Mason Marchment. That's I guess you could call a point night for the Dallas Stars that night. They were feeling pretty good after that one. Do you guys want to say anything else about that game? That was pretty crazy.
I had no idea they kept Comrie in for all 10. I genuinely had no idea. I didn't really look
Poor
much
guy.
into it, but that sucks. I feel bad for him.
Poor guy.
So how many
I
shots did
think
Dallas have? 50? Just under 50?
I
Not
think they got
mistaken.
over 50. I think
I can just double check here real quick. Thursday, March 9th.
they had
Okay.
49 shots.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It's
not a
crazy.
good save percentage night. Obviously, if you let in
No.
10 goals, but
Buffalo's definitely known for either giving up a lot of goals or putting up a lot of goals. So
That's true.
yeah, it's rough.
Comrie's been solid this season too, so it
Mhm.
was a little bit of a shocker. But I guess they really wanted Anderson to rest. You could see him being the guy if they get into playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yep.
Okay.
I mean,
Uh oh, you got more thoughts there, Jace?
I was just gonna quickly say like a 10-4 loss is rough, but on the standings wise, it's the same as a 3-2 loss. So
That's
just
a
get
good
the
point.
blowout out of the way and then move
True.
on, I guess, if you're the Sabres.
That's true. Okay, let's move on here. So Saturday, March 11th, we had the Oilers visiting the Leafs Saturday night in Toronto. First time McDavid's done it with fans in the building, and the Leafs prevailed with a 7-4 W. And the Oilers' young guns really costed them that game. There was the McLeod turnover. Desharnais wasn't great. Marner feasted. He had a 4-point night and the beautiful goal on the costly turnover from McLeod. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I watched that game and I felt pretty good. The Oilers went up 3-1 at one point, and then yeah, they just kept making just simple defensive mistakes that they shouldn't have been making. And the Leafs are a high offensive team; they'll make you pay with those ones, and they did there. They scored 3 goals in very short amount of time, I believe, like under 5 minutes, and then they took the lead 4-3, and the Oilers just couldn't bounce back after that. They scored to make it 6-3. The Oilers got one more, and then they just caught the empty netter. So yeah,
Yeah.
good night if you're a Leafs fan, and if you're an Oilers fan, that's tough to watch. But that's going to happen when you got young guys on your team. They're not going to be perfect every night.
Good night if you're an Ekholm fan too. Put up his first goal as an Oiler, so that was love to see that. That was his first goal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
Great goal.
bomb too.
Yeah.
a
It was
beautiful
really
shot.
nice. But
Take the
just
lead
like
too
we talked
early.
about, just like we talked about with the Stars Sabres game, that's kind of one of those games for the Oilers as well, where it's just a blowout and you move on, you learn mistakes, and hopefully the Oilers can keep trucking going into the end of the season here.
For sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're just shake that one off and keep rolling.
Shall we get to the next one?
Take it away.
Yeah.
All right. So on Sunday, March 12th, we had the Hurricanes visiting the Devils, which resulted in a Devils 3-0 win as Hurricanes had a back-to-back, unfortunately, which they were shut out in back-to-back games, and they're starting to slip away from the lead in the Metro, which is it's tough, but good for the Devils. What do you guys think?
That's scary. If you are a Hurricanes fan, I would be very scared, especially with the news we will get into later this episode. Um, it is a scary, scary time to be a Hurricanes fan, but you can also be very optimistic with the news we will discuss later because Puljujärvi could jump up into an extended top six role. So we'll see what the ex-Oiler can do coming off that talk. Jace, you got any thoughts?
Um, yeah, just rough if you're a fan of the Hurricanes. It's always sucks getting shut out, especially back-to-back nights. And Vegas is a good team. Devils are a good team. And man, that was a huge game. And now, as we record this, the Devils are only 1 point back of the Hurricanes for the lead. The Hurricanes do have a couple games in hand, but man, they would have liked to have that one to extend their lead of first place and secure that home ice advantage for most of the playoffs. But yeah, the Devils, they're not going away. They just keep winning this year. They're like probably the surprise team of the year in my opinion. Yeah, I don't really got much else for that one, but yeah, it was a solid game from the Devils overall. And Hurricanes, man, their offense just went to sleep that weekend.
Well said.
Yeah, and I guess that's going to bring us to our next game, which happened Tuesday, March 14th. This was in Arizona. The Flames paid a visit to the Coyotes. This was a Coyotes 4-3 overtime win. And obviously, the Flames, tough loss for them. They lose yet another game in overtime. And they're trying to get into the playoffs. They need every point that they can, and they lost a big one there to a team that they definitely should have beat. It was actually they lost again. It's an NHL record. They lost their 20th game of the season while they outshot an opponent by 10 or more shots. And yeah, their
Jeez.
playoffs hopes are dwindling. Like they're not if they're getting shots, that means that they're not necessarily playing bad. Like the opportunities are there. They just can't buy them, and the opponent capitalizes on the opportunities that they get. So yeah, thoughts on that game?
Uh, yeah, it's definitely they've got 14 overtime losses this season, which is honestly unbelievable. They only have 31 wins, and that's not a playoff team in my eyes. I can't see them making the playoffs. And especially against the Coyotes, they can't expect to win at home or in the Mullet Arena where Coyotes are actually insane this year. So what do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I don't know. As at the point that we're recording this, they are 3 points out of a wild card spot, so that'll be quite the battle for the Flames if they do get in, which I personally don't think they will, which is pretty shocking after the season that they had this year. But obviously, they had the overhaul with Huberdeau and Uyghur as well as Kadri coming in, and losing Kachuk and Gaudreau. That's a tough loss. Some could have predicted this coming. Um, I don't know. Shall we move on, or you guys have any more comments?
You
Um,
said it all.
yeah, I think we're good to keep going.
All right, let's go. Okay, so Wednesday, March 15th, we have the Wild visiting the Blues. It was a wild 8-5 W. It was a high-scoring physical game by both sides. We almost got gifted a Binnington and Fleury fight, but of course the refs, they get in a little too quick and rob us of yet another goalie fight this year. Nonetheless, just a fight in general. And I guess the main story of the game was the Binnington meltdown once again, which is, it seems to be like a monthly occurrence at this point. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that game was crazy. Like, not only was it super high scoring, like you said, an 8-5 game, but that that near goalie fight, like everyone would have loved to see that. And yeah, Binnington, he's got some sort of, he has such a short fuse. Like, just one thing sets him off, and I feel like if they would have let them fight, then he kind of would have toned back a little bit. But he has all that pent up aggression, like that they didn't let him like like just punch Fleury for a little bit and just kind of vent it all out. But yeah, there's something's up with Binnington. He definitely is not the not a guy with a lot of patience. And yeah, I guess letting in 8 goals will do that to you as well. Harrison, you got anything to say?
Yeah, I honestly miss 2019 Binnington. What was his quote that he said after that? Oh, I can't remember that quote. I think you guys
Do
know
I
what I'm
look
talking about.
nervous?
Yeah, that one. That's where like the confidence started, but now it's getting rough. But also with the refs, like why do they always step in when it's goalies fighting, but never when it's just players? Like it's I don't get it. Ruining the fun. Everyone wants to see
I don't
that.
get it. Especially in like Binnington's case, like how Jace said, he has so much built up anger. You just kind of let it, if you let him go with Fleury, for instance, then you just kind of let it all out and you hopefully won't see as many meltdowns like we have seen this season.
Yeah,
And maybe he'll tone it back a little bit, but the refs step in again. So I don't know. Maybe that's a message that needs to be sent out throughout the league. I don't know. Shall we move on though?
sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that does it for reviewing the big games from this past week. But now we're going to preview the big games for the upcoming week, and we're kicking it off with this coming Friday. We got the Blue Jackets at the Ducks, which is the Bedard Bowl. Especially for the Blue Jackets, if they lose this game, they're much farther ahead for that last spot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's it's not a game that I think a lot of people will tune into. Doesn't really have too many giant implications. The only implication is who's gonna stay lower in the standings for the to get better odds at the draft lottery. But I will say that obviously the Sharks have already been eliminated from playoff contention, and I believe the Blue Jackets, they're playing LA, and if they lose in any fashion, then they will also be eliminated from playoff contention. So we're starting to see teams already drop out, and Ducks probably won't be far behind. And yeah, between these two teams, I don't want to see Bedard on the Ducks because
Me neither.
having him with Zegras and Drysdale and McTavish and Zellweger, that would just be disgusting. And they're in the Oilers division, my favorite team. So prefer him to go to the Blue Jackets between those two teams. But you got anything to say, Alex?
No, you pretty much capped it up pretty well there. I was just gonna ask actually, which team would you guys rather Bedard go to, the Jackets or the Ducks? But you guys pretty much answered that, and I think I agree with you purely from an Oilers fan perspective. But
Yeah,
we're going Bedard's career. It would be better for him to go to the Ducks, in my opinion.
for
That'd be
sure.
gross with McTavish and Zegras on a line. That'd be really scary. A couple of years down the line.
Yeah, that would they would be set up for the future, that's for sure, if that happened. But yeah, the next game that we're going to preview, this is Saturday night game, March 18th. It's a Battle of Ontario. Leafs are visiting the Senators. Obviously, the Leafs are basically already in the playoffs. The Sens probably won't make it. They're kind of their hopes are dwindling, but always like still Battle of Ontario is always a fun matchup. Both teams don't like each other, and it's in Ottawa, so but you'll get probably more Leaf fans there, I would presume, than Sens fans, or at least equal amount in that building.
Mhm.
So I'm sure the chants will be going back and forth, and the fans will be super rowdy in that one. So you guys got anything to say about the Battle of Ontario happening this Saturday?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that Leafs fans always love to take over other Canadian teams' buildings and Habs, but yeah, it's usually a half and half game whenever it's Leafs or Habs playing in another Canadian city. So yeah,
Makes it fun. Makes it a little more fun to go to those games at least. That's what I would say. But
I
yeah,
agree.
it looks like Ottawa's playoff hopes are done as we're recording this. They are 8 points out of the playoff spots. So that was tough. That Western road trip really killed them. I believe they went 1-3, I think. So that's tough. That's really tough.
Yikes.
Anyways, shall we move on here? Let's go. So we got Saturday, March 18th. We have the Blackhawks visiting the Coyotes. Another central basement battle. One for Bedard, if you would. Not a whole lot going on there. I will certainly not be tuning into this game. What do you guys think?
I also will not be tuning in, but I know as a fact the Coyotes will win this game because they are at home, and they'll probably win in overtime because they always seem
True.
to win in overtime. But I guess we'll see.
They are nasty at Muller Arena. That'd
They
be such a
are.
cool arena to visit.
Seats are kind
Yeah,
of pricey for some reason. It'd be fun to
I mean,
watch
there's
though.
only 5,000 of
That's true.
them.
yeah, yeah. There's not really too many super like um super like high stakes games this upcoming week, but so we picked two of the games obviously with worse teams, but we want to kind of highlight all the teams instead of just picking playoff teams or wild card teams, just never like ignoring the bottom teams. So
Mhm.
yeah, Blackhawks, Coyotes, like you said, I don't think many fans will be tuning in if they're not a fan of either team, but yeah, it's another kind of Bedard Bowl there. And I'll ask the same question, I guess, that Alex is going to ask the other one. Who would you rather see Bedard go to between those two teams if he went to one of them?
Blackhawks.
Really? I was
Yeah,
gonna say the Coyotes, man.
I
I don't
just
know.
I'd love to. I don't know. The Blackhawks need a new star, even though I don't like them. I can't see an original six team being this bad for that long.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know. Maybe they deserve it after everything that's gone on. No, I'm kidding.
that's
But
actually that's a
um,
good point. That's a good point.
I don't know. I feel like Arizona needs a star, so maybe their time has come. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, when is our last
Yeah,
true like all star that Arizona had?
Keller, Keller is actually pretty sick to watch. I don't watch a lot of Coyotes hockey, but he's actually pretty slick with it. He's had a few overtime goals this year, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Shall we move on here? You guys have any more thoughts?
Um,
I think we're good.
no.
All right,
All
take it
right,
away.
our next one we got on Sunday, March 19th. We got the Devils visiting the Lightning, which is two East powerhouses, both fighting. Well, Devils fighting for the lead in the Metro, and Tampa's really just fighting for home ice advantage against Toronto because there's not really. It's pretty much set in stone there for that matchup. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. The Devils obviously hoping to continue their recent success and hopefully lock up that Metro top spot, get home ice advantage. And Toronto, or sorry, not Toronto, Tampa is looking to do the exact same thing. They are 1 point behind Toronto right now, battling a few injuries, but that'll be a good game to tune into if you're a hockey fan. So, Jace, you got any thoughts?
Um, no, it's just yeah, two teams that are looking to overtake the team ahead of them. Tampa 1 point back in Toronto. Jersey 1 point back at Carolina as we're recording this. So yeah, they're both looking for. Obviously, Jersey's likely going to get home ice advantage no matter what because they're the 2 right now. But I'm sure Tampa would love to overtake Toronto and get that home ice against them, especially since that series is obviously going to go 7. And I'm sure Tampa would love to beat Toronto in 7 at home because Toronto always loses in 7. So
Always fun to watch Toronto lose. Greatest thing in
sorry, Leafs
sports. One
fans.
thing you can always bet on.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Leafs fans, if you're listening, but until you guys win a round, we will always take the Leafs to lose in 7
Yeah.
until they win a round.
Remember how loud the cheering was in the Moss Pit in the
Oh,
playoffs in the
man.
summer when Toronto lost Game 7? That was so awesome.
Yeah,
That was
for
right
the
before LA Edmonton Game 7, right?
Yes, it was. That was a glorious
Great night.
That was glorious.
yeah, we're not too fond of the Leafs if you couldn't tell. But
Not
yeah, I
at
think
all.
that's gonna bring us to the next one. We got one more game to quickly preview. This is on Tuesday on the 21st. It's the Predators visiting the Sabres. Kind of a different one here. It's 2 teams from different conferences, but they're both right now. They're both fighting for playoffs, and they're on the outside looking in. Nashville's been heating up recently. They're only 4 points back of a playoff spot as we record this, but they have 3 games in hand on Winnipeg. And Buffalo is 6 points back playoff spot, but they also have 3 games in hand on the Islanders. So their hopes aren't dead. They can still sneak in. So what do you guys think about this one? Obviously, Harrison, you're the Preds fan, so yeah,
Yeah, they're rolling right now. They're heating up for sure. And I as like a couple months ago, I honestly didn't think they'd sneak in as the gap was pretty wide, but now they're definitely closing in. The Jets are struggling. The Preds are heating up. They found some guys that just do things that I guess Niederreiter and Granlund couldn't, like Tommy Novak, Kiefer Sherwood. Where do these guys come from? And they're just what? I like it. I love it. It's like they're
That's
Colson.
true. On the other side of it, Buffalo is kind of in the same position as Ottawa. They are losing points fast and especially losing games 10-4. That's not a recipe for success, especially in the Eastern Conference this year. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Should we get on to the segment of the day?
yeah,
Blue
we're gonna
line
Yeah.
go
pick
with
'em?
the blue line pick 'em. I think we'll review our picks from last week a little quicker than we did the week before. Yeah, not really too much to say. Like, did they score? Did they not? But then when we get into our picks for this upcoming week, we'll kind of delve into that a little bit more. So, Alex, you want to go over your picks from this past week?
Yes, I do. Okay. I'll just rip through them quick. So my Thursday pick last week was a Zach Hyman at the Bruins. He did not score. Foley against the Ducks. He did not score. Unfortunately, this one made me the saddest. Alex Belzil versus the Devils did not score. He was on a 3-game heater coming in, but couldn't bury one. And then we had Colton Parayko against the Golden Knights. He did not score. The only one of the week that I got right was Arturi Lehkonen making his return to the Bell Center in Montreal. He did score, and quote me if I'm wrong, but I think it was an empty netter, so I just hardly got that one. But
Yeah, he scored 2 that game. He got the first goal of the game, but then he got hurt later that game.
yes, he did. Yeah, we'll cover that later too. But then I had Jacob Chikrin at the Oilers this past Tuesday. He did not score. I think he got injured as well that game. He had to leave the game for a little bit. And my last pick of the week was Anders Lee at the Ducks, and he did not score as well. So a pretty rough week overall. I still got that one, so at least I'm kind of consistent with it, if you will. But Harrison, give her away.
Yeah, I can't lie, I had a pretty tough week too. I had Duchesne scoring, nothing. Troy Terry scoring, nothing. Bo Horvat scoring, nothing. Josh Morrissey scoring as one of my defensemen, nothing. Finally, Willie Nylander has the freaking great season that he's having. He puts one in the back of the net against Buffalo, and then that's all I had. And then I had Shea Theodore, nothing, and Nichushkin, nothing. So it was a pretty rough week for me. What about you, Jace?
Yeah, mine was slightly better, but still not amazing. First night I had Adam Fox as my first defenseman against Montreal. He didn't score. Kachuk against Chicago. He got 3 assists that game and scored the next game, but he didn't score that game. Makar against Arizona. He ended up scoring the overtime winner, so I got pretty lucky with that one. Then I had Joel Eriksson Ek also against Arizona. He did not score. Then I had Jamie Benn against Seattle, and he did score. Jamie freaking Benn, let's go. And then Kevin Hayes against Vegas, he didn't. And then Mitch Marner versus Colorado, he didn't. There was only 2 goals that game, one from each team, because then it went to a shootout. So I got 2 right. I ended up winning that week, but only got 2 right, just like Harrison got 2 right last week and ended up winning. So the scoreboard, I guess, if you want to call it for the Blue Line Pick'em, is I have a win, Harrison has a win, and Alex not yet, but he kind of got screwed last week with the
Shootout.
Kotkaniemi shootout winner and the new
Yeah,
Ginobili. But
it'll come. It'll come eventually.
Yeah, one funny thing too is that Lehkonen, Nylander, and Ben all scored on the same night, which was pretty funny. I thought
That is
that
pretty
all of
fun.
our points came on the same night.
yeah, that was like, what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
Sweet.
But anyways,
Shall we get into sorry, should we get into week 3 here?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so let's just do it by day, right?
Yeah.
So this Thursday I have Chandler Stevenson against the Flames. He is kind of rolling this year. He's not putting up bad numbers for the Golden Knights this season. Definitely a key part of their core now. So I have him going up against the Flames. Harrison, what about you?
I've got some people say I look like this guy, but I've got Braden Point scoring tonight against New Jersey. He's got 4 goals in his last 5. He's Tampa's leading scorer, and which is by a lot actually, which is not Kucherov's second with 27. So I think he'll put one in the back of the net tonight. What about you, Jace?
Tonight I had, or I have, I guess, Adrian Kempe scoring against Columbus. He's been scoring a lot recently. I think he's passed 30 goals on the year for them. So yeah, hopefully he can get one for me tonight. And back to you, Alex, for Friday.
Cool. Yeah, Friday, March 17th, I have Jacob Vrana making his return to Washington. I have him scoring against the Capitals. He is now a member of the Blues. He got traded earlier this season from Detroit after what seemed like just a crazy season, and all he went on to the NHL assistance players assistance program, and he came back and he's been lighting it up with the Blues, honestly. So I have him scoring against Washington.
Nice. I like that. Pretty good pick. My pick's
Thanks.
better. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, for Friday night, I've got Alex Tuck in Philadelphia to tuck one in the back of the net. If you could say that.
Okay,
He's
Gene Prince fan. Okay.
he's also got 4 goals in his last 5, and he's second on Buffalo in scoring right behind Tage Thompson. Yeah. Tomorrow night. What about you, Chase?
I also went to that game, and I also went with a Buffalo Sabre, but I went a defenseman. Picked Rasmus Dahlin to score against Philly. I think he's the third highest scoring defenseman this season, and he has like 13 or 14 goals on the year, so not too bad from the back end. So yeah, crossing my fingers he can get one tomorrow night against Philly.
All right. So moving on, I have Domi scoring at the Flames, the newly acquired Dallas Star, who has been lighting it up this past week. Not gonna lie, I think going into the game tonight, he had 3 points in 6 games, 1 goal and 2 assists, and the beautiful feed over to Heiskanen in overtime the one night. So maybe he'll score against the Flames and I'll win it this week. We'll see. Harrison?
For mine, we were just talking about this guy and this team. I've got Clayton Keller scoring against Chicago at home. He's got 6 goals in his last 5 games and 4 goals in his last 2 games. So he's lighting it up. And yeah, Arizona's obviously really good at home. So I think it should be a gimme right there. So should be
That's
one
a
for
good
me right
pick.
there.
Yeah,
That's solid.
he's scoring a lot this year, so could definitely see him scoring that night. And my pick for that Saturday night, it's the Rocket Richard winner from last year, Austin Matthews against Ottawa. Obviously he's having a bit of a down year, only 31 goals. Like still 31 goals is really good, but for Matthews, it's not up to his standards. But he always shows up big, it seems, against Ottawa. So just cross my fingers that he can get one that night for me.
I like it.
Sweet. All right, so now I have Kuzmenko scoring in Anaheim against the Ducks. Kuzmenko, this is his first year in the NHL this year. He has 60 points on the season. He's played 65 games. I would say that's pretty good for just coming over from Russia and kind of lighting it up and finding chemistry with some of the top players in Vancouver. So he's my pick that night.
Yeah,
Nice.
he seems like he scores like every night for the Canucks. Like every time I check their
Mhm.
scores, it's like Kuzmenko.
Yeah.
Kuzmenko scored.
33 goals on the season. Pretty good.
I think
I
he
thought
got
he'd be
another
good,
one
but not
tonight
this.
too.
Yeah. Solid.
All right, moving on to mine. I was talking about this guy earlier too. I've got Tommy Novak for the Preds scoring in New York. He's got 4 goals in his last 5 games. Where the where did this guy come from? Uh, but yeah, obviously Nashville's they're rolling right now, and the Rangers have been struggling recently. So Tommy Novak will put one on the board.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, he's like came out of nowhere and he's lighting it up. So it's a pretty good pick from you.
Love it.
And yeah, my pick for that Sunday night, I'm gonna go to Tampa. Not gonna go one of their superstars, but I'll go with Brandon Hagel against New Jersey. He's got 24 goals on the year, so pretty solid for him. Um, yeah, playing with all those stars over there probably helping his points a little bit, but he's also having just a great year himself. So yeah,
He's been playing
he
great
might
as of
hit
late for
30. He
sure.
got six more goals from 30. So um, yeah, he'll just hopefully he can score that night. And back to you, Alex, for the Monday pick.
Sweet. So Monday night, I have Claude Giroux making his return to, well, I guess it's not really the Battle of Pennsylvania anymore, but he's going into Pittsburgh with the Sens. He has 66 points on the season, 28 goals, and he's chasing his 1,000th point of his NHL career, hopefully this season. So I have him scoring on Monday night.
Good pick. Moving on, I've got my first defenseman, Brandon Montour at Detroit, who as a D-man has scored 2 in his last 5, which is pretty good. And obviously against the Detroit team that has been trying to push for a playoff spot, but they've been struggling a little bit, but I can see it happening. I can see it.
Pick.
Yeah, I have Montour on one of my fantasy teams. He has 12 goals and 55 points on the year.
Yeah.
Like he was always like a second pairing, maybe even third pairing guy, and then this season he's just having like a crazy good year. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty absurd. But yeah, my
Mhm.
pick that night, I also went back to a defenseman. Um, probably one of the most overrated and overpaid defensemen in the league. But I went
No,
with Seth Jones playing in Colorado. He,
I thought you were gonna say Darnell Nurse.
no, I mean Nurse is overpaid, but I think Seth Jones is more overpaid. He gets paid more, and he's
Yeah, true.
arguably just the same, if not worse, than Nurse. But he does have
Mhm.
10 goals this year, which is pretty decent. So yeah, hopefully, or who knows, maybe he gets one that night. Um, yeah, let's go Seth Jones.
Cool.
I like it.
All right. So Tuesday night, I have Mike Matheson playing the Lightning. Mike Matheson, he was acquired at the beginning of the year from Pittsburgh to Montreal in exchange for Jeff Petrie and a couple other assets. And he has been an absolute stud for the Habs this season. He has 7 goals and he's been scoring lots in his last couple games. So I expect one too. I expect him to pot one for me that night, so I could finally win this week.
We'll see. We'll see.
Those defensemen are just kind of wild cards. You never know with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for mine, I've got arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time. I've got Ovi scoring against Columbus. He's got 37 on the year, which leads the team, obviously. But yeah, he likes scoring at home, especially against the worst team in the league. So I'm probably getting too overconfident for this, but we'll see what happens. I trust Ovi.
Yeah, it's probably the closest pick to a lock that you have, I would say, out of all your picks.
Mm-hmm.
My night that night, I also went with a capital. I didn't even realize how many of the same teams we picked this week. I picked mine without even really looking at yours, and then we just picked the same onto the same teams. But I went also capital. I went TJ Oshie. He only has 18 goals on the year, but he has 3 in his last 6. So he's kind of heating up with the goal scoring a little bit. And yeah, Columbus obviously isn't very good, so maybe you can get one that night for me for the pick'em, and then close it off for Wednesday, Alex. Last day for the pick'em.
Okay, so we heard your thoughts earlier on this pick, Harrison, but I have Nurse playing against the Coyotes. So he only has 7
No.
goals on the year. Yeah, you heard that right. He has 7 goals on the year, and he had the beauty in Boston to win the game a little while ago. So I'm praying for a Darnell Nurse goal.
Hey, you never
Well,
know.
funny enough, I've got same game, also a defenseman. I've got Evan Bouchard scoring with pretty much the same reasoning against Arizona, and Arizona is not at home. So if it's any game to score, it'll be that game for sure.
Yeah, Bouchard on the power play 1 now. He's definitely his odds of scoring have gone up. And
Mm-hmm.
I also went an Oiler in that game. We all went Oilers, but to be fair, there's only 2 games on that night. There's Arizona and Edmonton and Pittsburgh in Colorado. So, and we all really like the Oilers. So, I guess a little biased, but like, what are you gonna do? It's the last game of the week, and none of us picked premier goal scorers. I picked Nick Bukestad, playing his first game against his former team in Arizona. So, yeah, maybe the story comes true and he gets one his first game against his former team. I originally had picked McDavid, but I was like, he's like Rocket Richard. He's gonna win it. 50 some goals, like 56 goals in the year. Like that would almost be too much of a cheat. So I changed it to Bukestad for the just kind of the storyline. And yeah, so those are our picks for the pick'em for this week. And good luck to you both. And we'll come back next week and see who ended up winning.
I'm taking it this week. But let's talk some news around the league, I think. The first really big news, I think, is Svechnikov is out with an ACL tear. This is obviously a massive loss for the Carolina Hurricanes. He will miss the remainder of the regular season and playoffs. He has been lighting it up this season for Carolina. He has 23 goals, 32 assists for 55 points, and he will be greatly missed on that top line with Aho, which is why I mentioned earlier that Puljujärvi is going to get that jump up and play with Aho. Hopefully have some chemistry from the 2016 World Juniors, but I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's pretty big for Carolina. Because who is going to do the Michigan moves now? Who? How are they going to score?
Their biggest concern. Yeah.
Facts. What do you think, Jace?
Yeah, you guys basically said it. Nothing else really to say other than that's a really big loss, and hopefully we wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully comes back next year, back to his old self. But yeah, Carolina's gonna have to find a way to make a playoff run without one of their best players. So you've seen teams do it before, but can Carolina do it this year? I guess we'll see.
Mhm.
For sure. All right, moving on. We were talking about this one earlier, actually. Binnington hooked up with a 2-game suspension for punching Hartman after he scored on him. So that was definitely a bonehead move from him. But yeah, it's kind of the story of Binnington nowadays. But what do you guys think?
I don't think
Um,
it's not too impactful just because the Blues are obviously not in a playoff race. But like you said, Harrison, that's a total bonehead move, honestly.
Yeah.
Going after Hartman, especially because in the video, Binnington kind of swings out and Hartman was just on his way. I'd say that's more Binnington's fault than anything, and he still came after him. So, I mean, good on Fleury for going all the way down the ice. That was pretty cool.
I wish we had a
But
goalie fight.
Jace, oh, I know,
Damn. That'd been
man,
Fleury's
so
first
close.
one too.
Yeah, since he played in the queue.
He wants one too. He's always talking about it. He needs one
Yeah,
before he
he was pretty
retires.
hyped up this talking about it.
Yeah.
Jace, you got any thoughts?
um, yeah, you guys basically summed it up. But my only question is a 2-game suspension really gonna make him stop losing his losing his head every time something like that happens?
I
Probably
don't
I
think
don't
not,
think
so.
so.
I
but
think going back to what we were talking about earlier, like I think you just got to let him fight it out at least once, and just hopefully something changes from this. I think if he comes back and he's even more fiery, then they'll let him fight. But I don't know. I don't know what the league's doing, honestly.
yeah, that's definitely crazy seeing a goalie lose his head like that. It's modern day like Ron
Mhm.
Hextall or Billy Smith or
Yeah.
something. But
Honestly.
I'll get into the next story here. This is actually a bit of a different story. So the Oilers defenseman Slater Cuckoo, um, he was on the team a couple years ago, kind of a third pairing seventh D man. He was serviceable for Edmonton. Um, I didn't mind him on the team, but he released a statement yesterday actually about why he hasn't been with the team and why he stepped away. And I'll read his exact comments and then we'll discuss it a little bit after that. But it has to do with obviously mental health and so yeah, I'll just start it from exactly what he said. So he said, I left the game just over a year ago and thought I would share a little bit of my story throughout the next while in case someone else is feeling shame towards their anxiety. You are not alone. I left the game because my life inside of it had gotten to a place that was unbearable and unhealthy towards my mental health. I would say I played a majority of my professional games without the ability to eat much, if anything, the night before and the day of the games. Hockey night in Canada on a completely empty stomach? Let's do this, I guess. Anxiety shows up in all shapes and forms. One of the ways mine did was the inability to eat. I would get comments from my teammates saying, Hey, Kooks, you know the meals are free due to my weight dwindling, without them knowing the pain I was going through. I would hear from GMs and coaches that I need to put on weight if I was to battle in the corners with the elite of the league, not to mention the energy needed to complete these tasks as well. That just put on increased pressure. I would be asked to go for dinner with teammates on the road. Knowing I wouldn't be able to eat, I would isolate myself and usually walk the streets, settling to discreetly bring takeout to my hotel room so nobody would know if I ate or not. I kept this in as much as I could my entire career. My dad had a nervous tummy growing up. I thought that is all I had. But when being continuously scrutinized for my on ice performance, it caused a downward spiral, a vicious cycle of needing to eat but physically being unable. Be kind to one another because you never know what someone might be going through. And stop commenting on people's weight. It's friggin' weird. Slater Cuckoo. So, yeah, those are obviously his comments about why he stepped away. And he obviously has a mental health disorder and eating disorder. And yeah, do you guys want to touch on that at all.
Harrison, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. That's obviously mental health and disorders are like nothing to joke about, and I obviously have respect for him for taking time away. He takes all the time he need. I liked him as an Oiler. He was honestly just a solid D man, and just I just hope he gets back to the place that where he feels healthy and that he can be happy again.
I agree. We're all rooting for him. You never want
Absolutely.
to see that. That's really sad. It's unfortunate. But shall we get on to the next piece of news, I guess?
Before we do that, I just want to say one quick thing about the Slater Cuckoo that like obviously listen to what he says. Like if you're listening to this episode and you're going through something, like no matter how hard it would be for you or how much pressure you're under, like you can speak up to multiple individuals in your life, and there is like a way to get help. And I know Slater Cuckoo, he stepped away, and I hope he's getting the help that he needs, and he's able to fight through this and potentially come back. And if not, that's totally okay. But yeah, all the respect in the world for Slater for speaking up and putting a story out there and letting others know if they're going through a similar thing that they're not alone, and that they can do something about it. But yeah, kind of a little, I guess, more serious point in the news. But yeah, normal transition. Alex, do you want to get into the next point for the news for the week?
Sure. So the Toronto Maple Leafs announced that Ryan O'Reilly will return before the playoffs. So obviously a huge ad coming back after he got injured, unfortunately, pretty quick into his Leafs career. So I'm sure a lot of Leafs Nation is very happy about that, and he will be a valuable piece coming into playoff time. So, do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely a huge piece that they need back for the playoffs. They need that against Tampa Bay, especially with their struggles always in the playoffs. They can never win around. It's so fun to make fun
Mm-hmm.
of them. I love making fun of the Leafs, but yeah, it's just they definitely need O'Reilly, especially for that splash at the trade deadline. What do you think, Jace?
Yeah, not too much to add on my part. Just yeah, it'll just be nice for the Leafs to play a couple games with O'Reilly before the playoffs, so that they can he can kind of get used to playing with the team, playing with the line mates and stuff, because he barely got any time beforehand. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a sigh of relief for Leafs fans. But that's really all to talk about there. Get into the next point, Harrison.
Yeah, up next we got news from Colorado. We got Lehkonen out 4 to 6 weeks, which is honestly a pretty big blow for that team as they've been injury riddled all season. So but they keep on finding a way. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, you said it pretty well there. They've been having a lot of injuries all season, and Lehkonen is another piece that they don't really need out for, especially for 4 to 6 weeks. So he'll be back right about playoff time, which that's good if you're a Colorado fan. But how do you guys feel about Colorado going into playoffs this year? Honestly,
I mean,
Not as scary as last year, to be honest, but you never know what they could do. What do you think, Chase?
yeah, kind of same as you. Like, I don't think they're as dangerous as last year, but it's still Colorado. Like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
they still have McKinnon, Ranton, and McCarr. They'll have Lehkonen back. Evan Rodriguez having a great season. Devon Taves, obviously. Georgiev's been playing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Landeskog hasn't even been playing at all this season, and they're still near the top of the Central. So, um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how far they go this year with all the man games they've lost to injury. But Lehkonen, yeah, his injury was a broken finger, but like they said, he'll be back hopefully for playoff time, so it's not season ending, but still a big loss for the Avs. And I think that's kind of all we have to say about that one. And our last point for the news, this actually it's kind of funny. I think we discussed on the last podcast about the Van Riemsdyk not being traded and Chuck Fletcher with the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the day that we posted the podcast, he got fired, and Danny Briere ended up taking over as interim GM for the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, he was a player. He played there. He went on that cup run with them in 2010. And yeah, he takes over, and I don't see how he could be worse than Chuck Fletcher, honestly. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely loved watching him play. In that, I remember watching that cup run, and he was definitely a key part for it. So I feel like he definitely knows the game of hockey and what he needs to bring to the Flyers, as he's been there, not with the team, but he played there for quite some time. So I feel like he knows the culture and the city well enough to actually deal with the fans of Philadelphia, which are honestly crazy fans, craziest fans in all sports. But yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think, Alex?
I don't know. I just kind of wish him luck. That Flyers organization is kind of a mess. So, um, and I agree with your point, Jason. He cannot be worse than Chuck Fletcher,
No.
honestly. I mean, man used an app to value trades in the National Hockey League. That is pretty absurd to think about. But I think that's it for the news of the week. Do you guys have anything more to add, or shall we get into the new segment this week?
I think we're ready.
No, I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, so our new segment's the top 10. We're doing this week, we're doing the top 10 players in our opinions. We all made different lists of this season, who's the best 10 players. Um, I think we're just gonna each say our own lists. Alex will say his, Harrison, and then me, and then we'll kind of discuss um, between each other why we had players in certain spots. So do you want to take it away, Alex, with your top 10? Start at number 10 and down to number 1.
Okay, let's do it. So for me, number 10 this season, I have Elias Pettersson. He is putting up kind of insane numbers points wise for the Canucks, even though we all know the Canucks are bottom feeders this season and potentially in the run for Bedard at this point still. He has 85 points on the season as we're recording this, and he's just kind of been like a silent beast over in Vancouver. Not a lot of media attention about him this season, but number 9, I have Mitch Marner. So Marner he's obviously one of the top pieces of that core in Toronto, and he's just having another elite season. He has 86 points on the season at the point of recording this, and he was just a monster again this season, especially in the win over the Oilers, which we covered earlier. He just showed why he's one of the top players in the league. So, um, moving on to number 8, I have Tage Thompson. Thompson, kind of a breakout year last year. This season, he is absolutely lighting it up for Buffalo. He has 87 points right now. He has been a goal scoring machine with 42, so 45 assists. And man, I love watching him play. He's such a treat for Buffalo, and I'm glad that Buffalo has a player like that we can talk about now. But number 7, I have Linus Ullmark of Boston, who is lights out um, for the Bruins this season. Just absolutely dominant behind an even better core in Boston. So number 6, I have Nikita Kucherov, he's been dominant for season after season now. He has 97 points at the time of recording this on the season. So gonna hit the 100-point mark again. And you can't go wrong with Kucherov. So number 5, this is where I think our lists are gonna get a little juggled. I have Nylander. He is having a very underrated season. We covered him a few episodes ago, talking about how he was snubbed from the All-Star game, and he's proven that he can be that top 4 guy, top 4 part of the core in Toronto, and he's been miles better than even Matthews this season. So, going down to number 4, I have David Pastrnak, who has 90 points on the season. He's one of the top reasons that Boston is so good yet again this season. He is carrying the way. He has 46 goals on the season, so he's going to hit 50 by the end of the year. And just another scary piece of Boston, which seems unstoppable in the playoffs. They're going to come in the playoffs this year. So number 3, I have Leon Draisaitl, who is, by his expectations, kind of having a down year, if you will. At the point of recording this, he has 101 points, so still absolutely dominant. Not much else to say there, honestly. But my number 2 this season, I have Erik Karlsson, who is on pace to hopefully get over 100 points in a season. I couldn't even tell you the last time that happened by a defenseman. And he's playing on a bottom feeder team already eliminated from the playoffs, the San Jose Sharks. He has 20 goals, 65 assists, just a monster. Hopefully he gets dealt this offseason. I would love to see that trade. And then number 1, indisputably, it's Connor McDavid. I mean, I think it's gonna be a given across all our top 10s. So, Harrison, you want to give us your list?
You know what? I like that list. I like a lot of those picks, but mine is I've got quite a few of the same players, but I'll give you the rundown of mine right now. But I'll start off. I've got a couple honorable mentions that like just barely missed the cut. So technically in 11th, I've got Pedersen, and then I've got Kachuk, and then Robertson rounding up the honorable mentions. But to get to the top 10, in my number 10 spot, I have Willie Nylander. He's arguably the best player on the Leafs this season, but I feel like where is he at in points right now? He's at 79, so he's having a great year. I honestly didn't expect him to be this good, but yeah, he takes up my 10 spot. And for number 9, I've got Nathan McKinnon, who I think he started off the season injured because he's at 85 points, but in only 56 games, which is really impressive for him. And but yeah, that's my number 9. And for 8, I've got my second Leaf. I've got Mitch Marner taking that spot. The most of that, or the main thing from that would have to be his big point streak that he had earlier in the season, which was freaking crazy. He's one of the all-time leaders in points in a row. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see even as a non-Leafs fan. And at number 7, I've got Tage Thompson. Obviously he's been having an incredible year. He is 5th in scoring with 87 points. And out of nowhere, I had no idea he'd be this good. I don't think anyone knew he'd be this good. But yeah, at 6, I've got the Russian Nikita Kucherov. Obviously, he's having another great year. 3 points away from 100 points. I could have put him higher, honestly, but there's some my top 5 I feel like is pretty. I've got it locked in there, but yeah, he's at number 6. And number 5, the Vezina Trophy winner. It's already decided. I got Allmark at 5. Incredible year. Not much else to say about him other than he's incredible, insane. At 4, I think. Oh, you had him at 3, but at 4. I've got Draisaitl. Obviously, another 100-point season for him, which is just routine for him at this point. Not much to say about him because he's just always incredible out there, as well as this next guy on the best team in the league this year. I've got Pastrnak at 3rd, so we pretty much just swapped Dry and Pasta, which is respectable. You could say either or. I could go anyway with that one, but yeah, I've got Pasta at 3, having another great season. And our top 2 is the same. I've got Tuukka Karlsson. You pretty much said it all about him. He's having an insane year. Obviously, he's the Norris Trophy winner. It's pretty much set in stone with that one. But he's taken that terrible Sharks team and putting up a crazy amount of points. And at number 1, the greatest player in the world, best player, you could say the best player of all time. Maybe not. Obviously, Gretzky's the greatest of all time, but best player wise, he's the greatest of all time. But yeah, I got McDavid at number one, which should be all of our number ones. That's it. That's my list. Bring
You
on
guys' lists
Jace.
are pretty interesting. I don't have the exact same list as either of you guys, but they're pretty similar. I would like to say a few. I wrote down a lot of honorable mentions. Um, I'd like to shout out two goalies that are probably they're I would say they're the other top three goalies aside from Omar. Ottinger and Sorokin having really good years. Three other defensemen that are also having good years: Makar, Dahlin, and Morrissey. Not in the top 10, but again, having good years. And then guys that just probably would be in the top 20 to 25 for forwards. I would say Panarin, Kaprizov, Nugent Hopkins, Braden Point, Nylander, Rantanen, Crosby, Jack Hughes, Jason Robertson, and Mitch Marner. They just missed my top 10. But for me, number 10, just like Alex, I have Elise Pettersson, just having a great year. Probably his best year of his career in Vancouver, even though they're not really near the playoffs. Number 9, Tage Thompson. He's goal scoring machine this year. He's got 42 goals. He's sixth in points with 87, and he's under 19 minutes time on ice for forwards, which is still a lot for a forward, but in terms of a superstar, it's actually the least amount out of any forward in the top 15 of scoring. So, yeah, he's making the most of his ice time there. Number 8, neither of you guys had this guy on your list, but it's Matthew Tkachuk for me. He's fourth in scoring. He has 31 goals and 60 assists. He has 91 points on the year. He has more points than Pasternak, Thompson, Marner, Robertson, Pedersen, McKinnon, Carlson, Nuge, Crosby, Rantanen. Like, he's just having a crazy year on Florida. It's a little kind of going under the radar, I'd say. But number 7 for me, David Pasternak. He's fifth in scoring, 90 points, 46 goals. The reason I have him a little lower because he is on Boston. They are the best team in the league. And they're second in goals, 4. So I think that's the reason he's 7. But still, he's having a career year. Still an amazing player. And he's super filthy. I love watching Pasternak. Number 6 for me. You guys might think it's a little high, but I have Nathan McKinnon at number 6. He has only played 56 games. Everyone else in the top, like the next guy in the top of scoring to even play that amount of games there's no one. The top 50 of scoring this year have all played more than 56 games. The top 50, and McKinnon is 10th in scoring. He has 85 points. He's third in points per game this year. He's 20 goals, 65 assists for 80. Sorry, I was looking at Carlson's stats. He has 29 goals, 56 assists for 85 points in 56 games. Unreal season for McKinnon. Number 5, same as one of you guys, is Linus Ullmark. Again, he's going to win the Vezina easily. His stats are just insane. Goals against average and save percentage, both just crushing the competition. Having a career year on the best team in the league. Not much else to say. Number 4, I had him lower than both you guys. It's Erik Karlsson. He's still by far and away the best defenseman this year. It's not even close. 85 points, 20 goals, 65 assists. On a pretty bad Sharks team, like really bad. But yeah, he's like almost completely offensive. I just think the 3 guys ahead of him are just like, I don't know. They're, spoiler alert, they're the 3 top scorers in the league this year. Number 3 for me, Nikita Kucherov. He's just a point machine. If you're not McDavid or Draisaitl, Kucherov's your guy for points. Like 27 goals, 70 assists on the year. Just again, having an insane year. Probably won't reach that 128 that he got a few years ago, but still, he's going to crack at least 110 points this year. And then number 2, obviously, Leon Draisaitl. I didn't want to put him at number 2 because I feel like that would be looked at as being biased. But after looking at the stats, I don't know how I can't. He has 4 more points than Kucherov in 2 less games played. He has 44 goals, which normally he's hit 50 twice in his career. He might not even get it this season. 50 goals, and he's still going to finish second in points, which is pretty absurd. 57 assists. He's just a point machine. And for people that say that he gets all his points from McDavid, clearly do not watch the Oilers. They play 90% of the time on different lines. They'll stack them together if they need a goal. But 5-on-5, they play different lines. They obviously play in the power play together, and people call them power play merchants. Like, what are the Oilers supposed to do? They have two of the best players in the world on the same power play. Like, what are they just not supposed to score goals when they're out there? Like, they're just so good. They score on the power play. That's like I don't get that argument. But obviously, number one, like you guys said, Connor McDavid, 129 points as we're recording this in 68 games. That is just insanity. He might hit 150, genuinely be the sixth player in NHL history to do it. At least we can all agree on that. But do you guys want to debate it, our picks a little bit? Do you guys have anything to say about each other's picks here?
I think I agree with your with McKinnon and Kachuk. I definitely should have had I could have had McKinnon higher for sure, and I totally should have had Kachuk squeaking in the top 10 or in comfortably in the top 10. I should say I should have had him at 8 or 9, but yeah, I yeah. What about you, Alex?
I don't know. Our lists are actually pretty similar. I'm kind of surprised, but we more or less have all the same guys. So I don't know. Hold on. I had one. Yeah, okay. So Jace, I got a question for you. Why is Carlson behind Kucherov and Draisaitl both? My question.
I just feel like Kucherov and Draisaitl, they're just, if you were to pick a player to put on your team for this season, I would pick Draisaitl and Kucherov to add to my team over Carlson for this season. Because clearly Carlson is on a bad team and he's not really getting them anywhere. Like, obviously he doesn't really have much help. Draisaitl and Kucherov have help with other guys, but I feel like Draisaitl and Kucherov, if they're on the Sharks would be in a better spot right now than if you take Carlson off.
That's a fair valuation, I would say.
That is a good point.
Yeah, but still, Carlson is having an insane year. If he hits 100 points on team that bad, that's astounding. But I did have a couple points about both your guys's. You guys both put Nylander in your top 10. And obviously he's having a career year. Like, he's over a point per game. He's the Leafs' second highest scorer. But he's lower in scoring than guys like Point, Hughes, Rantanen, Crosby, Nuge, and like McKinnon, Robertson. So I'm just curious as to why he made the top 10 over those other guys for you guys.
In my opinion, I think it's just because he hasn't really done this any other time in his career, and it's helping out the Leafs so much in the absence of Matthews' production that he should have had this year, but obviously injuries happen and whatnot. Maybe it's a little bit, we hear it a lot more just because it's the Leafs media with Sportsnet and TSN and whatnot, but I just feel like Nylander is having such a remarkable season that he kind of deserves to be on that list, especially that high up. But Harrison, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Toronto Sportsnet, the Sports Network, the media that's streamed to us here in Canada is it's always Toronto. So I feel like his name always pops up quite a bit. But yeah, I had him at 10. I keep switching with like pretty much any of my honorable mentions, like either Robertson, Kachuk, or my last one was, but yeah, you get the point. He's I just feel like he's having a great year compared to his last years where he was always frowned upon, or not really frowned upon, but he was never really lived up to the hype that he should be producing. But
Yeah.
I'll say one more counter argument to that. If he's in the top 10 on a team with Marner, Matthews, Tavares, all these guys, then why is Nuge not in the top 10? Because he has more points and he's also having a career year.
I was going to mention Nuge. If I had done my honorable mentions, Nuge was totally going to be in there just because he's having a dominant season as well. And it's obviously there's a lot of points that Nuge has collected throughout the season from the power play, but he's also been a force 5v5, playing on the defensive end of the puck. And Nuge has just been that guy kind of this season. So I totally agree with you, honestly.
I do as well. That's definitely a point I didn't really think of. I had him in my, not necessarily my top or my honorable mentions, but he was just outside the honorable mentions for Nuge.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd be like 14, 15.
Yeah, that's fair.
Shout
I
out
had him.
Nuge. Yeah. Honestly, at the point of recording this, Nuge has 83 points on the season. Sorry, 82. He's just lighting it up this year. This is by far his career best. And he's just so well rounded now that he really makes Edmonton a dangerous team, especially going into the playoffs. And I think a lot of that came from the extended playoff run last year, and just shows how much he wants it because it's not even a career year for Nuge, yet he's putting up these absurd numbers. And you really haven't heard a lot of it all season. So that's definitely something that should be noted.
Yeah, like Nuge, he's 12th in scoring. That's probably a little inflated, but again, he's still having a really good year. Like the Oilers' power play has been number one the past couple of years, but Nuge is always on that power play, but he hasn't put up 83 or like 80 some points every year. He's doing it just this year. That clearly means he's playing really, really good this year. So people that just say, oh, he's just power play merchant, like, yeah, he gets a lot on the power play, but like if he's a power play merchant, then how come he's not doing what he's doing this year every year before this? Why is it just this year? It's because he's having a career year and he's being a really freaking good player. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's really all there is to it. I also want to mention guys like Rantanen, Robertson, Braden Point, Jack Hughes, Sidney Crosby. They're all either in the top 10 or just are in the top 15 of point scoring. Like Rantanen has 45 goals. Robertson is 39. Crosby he's 13th in scoring. Braden Point has 43 goals. Those guys, I could see an argument for them, but I just think the 10 guys that we chose are just having slightly better years than they are. I went for my 10th pick. It was really between Robertson and Pettersson. I just felt Pettersson. The thing that did it for me was points per game. He has 4 less games played than Robertson, the same amount of points. So that's what ultimately decided it for me. But who is the tough debating that you guys had on your list?
Definitely that 10 spot with, yeah, Kachuk, Robertson, Pettersson, and always Crosby's always sneaking in there with his, like, quietly. He's got 83 points this year, which is, you don't really hear much of him anymore since he's starting to get up there in age, and McDavid's really taking the shine of the NHL. But he's always there, and he's yeah, like I said, he's that guy. Not still, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even going back to Nuge, like Nuge was kind of a tough choice to keep out, but I tried to keep as much Oilers bias as I could away from it. But another guy that I want to shout out real quick is Tim Stützle. He's having a crazy good season for the Ottawa Senators. He has 34 goals and 42 assists this season. And he's just kind of lighting it up especially with the presence of Giroux now, and DeBrincat. I just wanted to highlight him as well because he's having a fantastic year and hopefully many to come for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 20 years old. It's only his 3rd season. He's already got 76 points. So he's definitely gonna, I would say, place a pretty safe bet on him just getting better from here on out.
I agree. It's gonna be a scary Senators team in the future.
Yeah, especially after acquiring Chikrin. So it looks like in our list, we all kind of agree on Olmark. He's top 10, kind of in the middle of the top 10. Obviously, McDavid at 1.
Yeah.
Guys like Pedersen, Thompson, towards in the top 10 or either just outside at kind of that 9 to 11 range. Yeah, our lists are, like you said, pretty similar. Do you guys have anything else to debate about? Or one guy we
I
didn't
think
touch on yet though is David Pasternak. I had him at 7, Alex had him at 4, and Harrison had him at 3.
mhm. He's just
Obviously,
having he's
oh,
having
sorry.
one of those seasons too. Sorry. He has 46 goals, 44 assists. He has 90 points on the season. He's a plus 31 for the Boston Bruins, and he's just having another one of those seasons that he tends to have every couple of years. The last time he put up these type of numbers was the 2019-2020 season, where he put up 95 points in 70 games. So Boston obviously locked him up earlier this year for the next 8 years at a heavy $11.5 million average. I think that's what it was. But you always want to have a guy like Pasternak on your team. So yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely living up to that contract for sure. But I I don't know. I had him at 3. I could definitely see him being 4, 5, 6. Like my list really isn't set in stone, but I'm just really those like top from like 1 to 9. I feel like those should be in that range. But other than that, I'm really not set in stone with this list, but
Mhm.
fairly confident with it.
Yeah. I had him at 4, but I couldn't find reason to put him ahead of Draisaitl at 3. And I also couldn't find reason to put Nylander or Kucherov ahead of him. So I don't know. He just kind of stuck right at 4. Like that just kind of made sense
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I had him the lowest. I had him at 7. Um, like I said, he easily could be higher for me. Like I put Olmark, his teammate, above him, but I could see they they're both the two most important players on that team this year. But I could see Pasternak being a little higher. Yeah, just the reason I had him at 7 is because, like I said, I feel like if he wasn't on the Bruins, he wouldn't be having as good of a year. But still, um, that's not his fault that he's on a really good team. So he's
Exactly.
still in the top 10. Like there's can't really
Yeah.
complain about it. But I just felt the guys ahead of him just were a little more deserving. Like obviously, Kucherov, Draisaitl, McDavid, all have more points. McKinnon has less points, but he only has 5 less points, and he's way higher points per game. And then Olmark, best goalie in the league this year. So I just couldn't find an argument to put him ahead. He has less points than Tkachuk, who I put him ahead of Tkachuk. He does have less points than Tkachuk, but he has more goals. He has 15 more goals than Tkachuk. So that's the reason I had him ahead of him. Um, yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add about the our top 10 lists?
I think I'm pretty good, honestly.
I agree. Not much left, but yeah, you could pretty
Yeah,
much set it all.
I thought it was this segment was pretty fun.
Hmm.
Definitely think we should keep doing this, keep having some friendly discussions amongst ourselves about lists that we create based on our own opinions for the future. But other than that, I think that's going to close out this podcast. I think this is the longest one yet. So if you managed to make it to the end, congratulations. I know it was a little longer than we would have liked, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the Blue Line Breakdown. So for the 3 of us here, we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
See ya.